So here I am making a rounding hammer. Started with a piece of steel that was an inch and a half round, and it weighed 2¼ pounds. And then once I get to the end of the project, the head will weigh 1¾ pounds due to the scale and with the material that I have to grind away. So there's a plug that comes out when you do the punch. You punch about halfway through on one side, then you punch through on the other side, and you get that little bit of a negative. But most of the material is spread to the sides. So I'll be using a series of punches here, each getting bigger than the last one. So start with this little guy. I found it helpful to use a smaller punch. I have to hold the work with the tongs, but instead of having a big drift just to start with, this is helpful because there's less material on the punch, so that there's more energy delivered from the hammer into the workpiece. Then also protects your hands, so that way if you miss the punch, you're not smashing your finger against a 1500-degree piece of steel and a hammer. So this is the next punch, going up in size, a little bit wider, and I beat that out of there, and sometimes lose the grip on it. But now I'm using the drift, opening it up more, and this is called a fuller. So isolating each face of the hammer, kind of starting in the square shape, and then I go to an octagon, beating down the corners, and kind of doing the same on the face there. Instead of having the square face, I round it off, going from 4 sides to 8, and then to 16. Now I'm working on the other side. So you can see that groove that's formed, and then I'm rounding off the other face as well. Now I'm working on the touch mark, and now I'm adding my touch mark. I always need to let people know who made the item. And a second hit can be kind of tricky. You have to line everything up just right. But now we have a good deep mark. And cleaning off any scale that is left before I move on to the heat treatment. Then I normalize it by heating it up and letting it cool. Then I heat it up to non-magnetic and quench in water. Since this is 1045 steel, it's a water hardening steel. And I'll polish up the faces with a fine grinding belt. That way I'll be able to see the colors when I do the tempering. And the tempering's done with a hot drift, which is to soften the steel. Because right now it's very hard, and it could crack or shatter if you used it in this state. So I put it over a hot drift and let these colors that indicate the temperature move through, so that way it has proper hardness. And then I can move on to the handle. So I leave most of the handle square, and I fit the head onto the end first, that way the vise has something to hold on to. I'm doing some test fitting here, making sure everything's lining up good. And once I'm happy with that, cut the notch for the wedge. And now once I'm happy with how the head is fitting on, I can start taking the rest of the handle down from its square shape into the comfortable oval shape that you want the hammer handle to be. So I'll start with a draw knife to take away the majority of the wood, and then I go down to a spoke shave to do more detail, and then onto the belt grinder again. So a lot of handling it just to make sure everything's feeling good. And once everything's lined up, one of the final steps is just to beat the handle into the head. and get a good tight fit. Now I'm working on the wedge. Both the handle and the wedge is made from hickory. And then cut off the excess there. And then I'll add a handmade steel step wedge perpendicular to the wooden wedge. And I made the ball peen hammer you see in this video as well. And I beat it down just below flush. Flip it around, use the ball there, and finish it off. And then I use a mixture of tung oil and mineral spirits for the first couple coats, because the tung oil is pretty thick. So in order to get a good penetration, you thin it out with the mineral spirits. And there we go. And here's the hammer making progress on a single piece spur. So thanks for watching.